Happy St. Patrick's Day from the isolation ward. I'm sure you're in your own isolation wards. I hope you are. I hope you're having a good time, or the best time you can. Today's St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my green, wearing my Celtic cross. I always have that. But you know what? I was asked to do a presentation in Spanish for 20 minutes about St. Patrick. And when the school closed, I had some time to work on it. And then everything closed, including all the St. Patrick's Day celebrations. So I worked on it for nothing, essentially. I might do it again sometime. But you know what? I wanted to tell you a little bit about Patrick today. Most people, if they ever think about him, and they do, because they know the holiday, good time to go out and get liquored up. And if people think about him, I guess they think about him, chasing the snakes out of Ireland and using the shamrock to explain the Trinity and wearing the green robe and the bishop's mitre and all of that. Or they think of him as just green beer and parades and all that. But he was a real person and a really interesting guy and someone I just admire tremendously. So let me tell you one bit about him. It sort of ties into what we're all going through right now. So he was born in the late 4th century, very late, in the 390s. And this might surprise you. He was not Irish. He spent his first 16 years in his native land of Britain. He was a British Roman, probably spoke Latin. His name was Patricius, and he came from a very wealthy family. They were Christian because his father was a deacon and his grandfather was a priest. That's in the days when priests could marry. But from what we know, Patrick had no faith at all. He was an atheist. But he lived a very comfortable life in his villa along the coast. I don't know if we can say he was spoiled, but he certainly never wanted for anything of the time. Probably had servants, and it was a real comfortable, luxurious life that came to an end when he was 16 years old. To the west of Britain was an island full of, I guess we could say barbarians, pagans, really tough people. Now, when I say pagans, I know some of you say, oh, I love pagans. Wicca, dancing in the moonlight. And I'm sure some of that, but there was also a lot of human sacrifice and endless fighting over cattle and bloody mess. But they were ruthless and they were tough. And they liked to conduct raids. And one night, they conducted a raid on the town where Patricius lived. So, these Irish pirates would go and they'd steal cattle. They'd ransack a house, steal everything. They'd take babies right out of cradles. They'd steal young women and young men to make slaves out of them. And that's what happened. They took Patrick, put him on the boat, and from what I have heard, Patrick overheard two of the pirates speaking some form of Latin. He certainly could never have understood Gaelic at that point, but he heard them speaking Latin, and he said, "Where are we going?" And they said, "Ireland." Now, that was a death sentence, really was. No one returned once you went to Ireland, and Patrick essentially from that moment on knew his fate. His life was over. So they landed and he was sold into slavery and he became a shepherd way up in the northwest of Ireland. And so he lived for 6 long years in near total isolation. He had no companions. Imagine, and he's a 16-year-old boy. He had no Netflix, no phones, no texting, no internet, no friends, no family, no one to talk to. He had the sheep out on the hills. Maybe he had a dog. I like to think he had a dog. But he had nothing. And he spent those years out, no house, so probably built a shelter of some kind. And those winters up there can be really rough. Snow and constant rain, cold, steady rains every night. So what did he do? His belief that he thought he lost started to be rekindled, and Patrick spent his days and nights in prayer. I think he saw himself in a hopeless situation, but he didn't lose hope. So he continued to pray, and one night, an angel, the voice of God, we don't know, I'm not sure he knows, but he heard a voice say, "Patrick, there's a ship waiting for you." Now, he wasn't that far from the coast, but the voice didn't say, "Go over there." The voice said, "Go way over there, 200 miles down to the south, Wexford or maybe Waterford, and there you'll find a ship." Now, no one escaped from Ireland. I told you that already. Nobody. And an escaped slave faced instant death. There's no returning them to their masters. Just kill them. So Patrick made his way the 200 miles. Must have been a harrowing journey, that's for sure. And lo and behold, there was a ship, and they took him. I'm not going to go into all the other things because Patrick did some really amazing things, and we know this because he wrote it in his confessions. This is Patrick himself telling us all of this. So, what happened? He was returned home to his family. You can imagine the rejoicing. And no one expected to see him again. So, I'm sure they were like, "Oh, Patrick, thank you. I was so happy you came home." And it must have been a wonderful, wonderful time. And of course, Patrick, just so thankful for escaping that hellhole, and never had ever had an intention of going back to that place. Until one night, in his room, guess who came again? The angel. Or a figure, say it's an angel, we don't know, but and came with a rolled up scroll of paper. And Patrick unrolled it, and written on the paper were the words, "We beg you, holy boy, to come and walk amongst us once more." It was the voice of the Irish people. And that night, Patrick decided, "I'm going back." Oh, wow. So his family was like, "What? What are you, nuts?" "No, I'm going back." So he went to Europe. He became a priest. He studied. His education was woefully lacking because of the 6 years in the field. So he was now 22, and they actually, he kept pestering them. "I want to go back. I want to go to Ireland." They were like, "What do you want to go there for?" "Nothing but, horrible barbarians there." "No, I want to go back. I want to go there." So they made him a bishop at 22. And Patrick went back. He went back. He faced it again. And, he basically converted that entire island, as they say, without spilling a drop of blood. They loved him, and they still do. And so do I, and so should you. I thought it was interesting because we're all in isolation now, aren't we? In a way. We don't, I don't have sheep around, but we all are facing our own isolation. And how are we going to do that? Patrick faced he took his isolation and he made something heroic out of it. I'm not saying we should be heroic in our isolation. But we can make the best of it, and we can make something out of it. I, I was thinking, I can imagine some people, if they're told, don't go out because you could catch the coronavirus. No, I'm not gonna catch it. I'm gonna take my chances. I'm a tough guy. I don't want to listen to you. Whoever, parents, government, doctors, whatever. No, I know better. Well, yeah, okay, that's the way some people would look at it. But how about looking at it another way? Why don't we look at it like you're protecting other people by staying in? You're protecting your grandmother. You're protecting your uncle with diabetes. You're protecting the neighbor down the street with a heart problem. You're protecting the 29-year-old friend with leukemia. These people need to be protected, and the best way, and really at this point the only way we can do it, is to stay away from them. And that's a heroic thought, isn't it? We have to give up a little. We really do. So, I just saw a picture of a beach in Florida the day after we were asked to only have groups of 10 people. There's a whole beach. What are you people thinking, really? What is the... Anyway, and the toilet paper thing. You can't figure this out. I saw one thing where a guy's like, well, every person goes through one roll of toilet. You go through one roll of toilet paper every day? What are you eating, bats? But, I just don't get it. We got to make do. Don't take all the toilet paper. Leave some for other people. Patrick didn't have toilet paper. I don't know what he used. Maybe a sheep. Don't want to think too much about that. But, we got to make do. You can be heroes here. We can all be heroes. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be boring. But we'll figure it. We'll get through this. This is our time to do something for our country, for our families, for our friends, the whole world. So, there you go. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you all. Think about Patrick. Give him a little bit of a thought while you're spending your time in your isolation the best and most heroic way you can. There you go.